So we're all eagerly awaiting the arrival of season 23 in 2025, but Family Guy has been kind enough to bless us with 2 specials for the holidays. And since spooky season is upon us, they of course had to give us yet another one of their Halloween specials. Let's just hope this one delivers. Titled Peter Peter Pumpkin Cheater, a fun phrase to say after a few drinks, the episode opens with the Griffins trying on their Halloween costumes in the middle of the aisles since they're self-proclaimed trash.
I don't care.
Brian, I found our costume. We're gonna be Sunny and Cher.
Anybody want to place their bets on who immediately volunteers to be Cher? So Stewie makes it clear that Brian will be joining him trick-or-treating as the Sunny to his Cher, but Brian points out that he could have plans. Emphasis on the could. So Stewie starts teaching Brian his part in Sunny and Cher's I Got You Babe duet. I would make a comment about Stewie knowing all the choreography to the music perfectly, but going into the 23rd season of the show and 25 years on air, we've all seen enough to know why he knows this. Go dance your heart out, Stewie. After one hip shimmy too many and another telling off from Stewie, Brian tells him he's done with the act and that he should just go trick-or-treating with Rupert instead.
I hang out with my friends. Oh, your friends, huh? Name one.
As Stewie contemplates having Rupert join him, Brian hands back his Sunny mustache, which is revealed to be taken off Tom Tucker. Now that is the real horror story of this episode. So with Brian out of the running, Stewie decides that bringing Rupert to life is his only option. Channeling his inner Frankenstein and using some questionable ingredients, Stewie successfully creates... wait, he forgot an ingredient. Can't forget that one.
And finally, this metal-studded dog collar to conduct electricity, and not because it's my biggest kink.
But despite his efforts, his creation doesn't come to life. Or so he thinks. So Stewie spends his night ranting to Rupert about Brian rejecting his invitation to go trick-or-treating, saying that he wishes he was dead. An extreme reaction, but one of these two not had an emotionally charged friendship.
And now, to fulfill your wish, I must kill Brian.
As someone who grew up watching Chucky, there's something so deeply unnerving about this. Meanwhile, in the kitchen, Brian tries to prove Stewie wrong about not having friends and calls... Sanfo? I will say that while it's clearly not the strongest plotline the show's ever done, I do like that they reiterate this idea that neither Brian nor Stewie really have anyone outside of each other. Their relationship has been a core factor in the show's 25-year run and still remains that way now. But before I get too deep into that thought, I should probably mention that Rupert is standing behind Brian with a knife.
Hey, while I got you, let me show you my yard. So much potential.
Ugh, potential.
You know what? I'm with you, Rupert. Kill him. So the night of trick-or-treating comes and Stewie's looking fabulous as ever when he spots Sunny, or Anthony Kiedis if you're Meg. I can't unsee that now. Thanks, Family Guy. Stewie clocks it's Rupert, but realizes in their conversation that the bear has taken his words of killing Brian way too literally. But before he can change the bear's mind, Rupert pulls the ultimate getaway. As Stewie goes to save his best friend, another familiar face makes a special appearance.
Trick or treat! I'm a registered offender!
Well, to any parents watching, if you were unsure about sending your kids out for the holidays, there's your warning. While waiting for his friend at the outdoor movies, Brian gets approached by Rupert, who he doesn't recognize, and gets a verbal beatdown about being a good friend before leaving for the bathroom.
Oh, this is the spot, all right. The spot to die.
Stewie, it's so hard to tell the difference, makes it to the movies where he tracks down Brian in a life or death situation.
Oh God, I'm too late! You're not too late! But by the time I start helping, don't you think it'll be too late?
Despite his solid logic, he does step in before it's too late. Rupert, who now suddenly has the sharpest teeth of any Teddy I've ever seen, explains his motives for the planned murder.
You turn to me only when Brian's mean to you. I'm always second to him.
To be fair to the bear, this was an entire conversation between Brian and Stewie back in season 16's episode Dog Bites Bear, where Brian had similar feelings about playing second fiddle to Rupert. So maybe Stewie needs to evaluate how he prioritizes the only 2 friends he has in his life.
Do you know, my name's not even Rupert. It's Jerry.
Ugh, I've been hanging out with a Jerry?
Actually, this kinda changes my previous opinion. But Stewie does prioritize his best friend and grapples Rupert before he can complete his epic slow-mo takedown of Brian. He gives Rupert one chance to change his mind, but when the bear doesn't, Stewie is forced into a heartbreaking decision.
If I could turn back time, if I could find a way.
Are we 100% sure this isn't Cher? So as is usually the case with these somewhat toxic, codependent best friends, Brian and Stewie make amends, apologizing for placing their priorities anywhere but each other. But it isn't the end of Rupert, which you probably could have guessed if you've seen the show, as this is about his, 5th almost death.
What on earth do they talk about?
Oh, if you only knew, Lois. But let's move on to the main plot of this 20-minute special, Joe and his giant pumpkin. No, get your heads out of the gutters, it's a literal pumpkin.
How how'd you get it so big?
Giggity.
You're not helping me here, Quagmire. Joe goes on to tell the guys that he wished for a pumpkin big enough to enter into Quahog's Great Pumpkin Halloween contest. And with that wish, plus months of caring for it, he finally has one that should be big enough to beat the long-standing winner of the competition.
Patrick McCloskey. Why do I know that name? Wait, weren't there weird rumors about him and Bonnie?
I'm not even going to go back and count how many times this makes it on the Bonnie cheating on Joe tally chart. At the clam, Joe is still talking about the pumpkin, much to the annoyance of the other guys, who decide to continue their holiday of pranks tradition from way back in season 9, planning to hide Joe's pumpkin. It's not as extreme as tricking Quagmire into sleeping with Joe, but I guess a prank is a prank.
Uh-oh, we wrecked Joe's pumpkin. And my sneakers.
What are those?
Are those Yeezys?
They're cheaper now.
Well, thank you for answering my question, even though it was rhetorical. So Peter and the guys try to cover up their mistake, but there's no hiding that mess. At least Joe shouldn't be too upset over it. Oh, he has a gun in his mouth.
We can put it back together.
Are you telling me you can do what the Humpty Dumpty crew couldn't?
Wow, and I thought my references were dated. Peter suggested they scoop the pumpkin remains up and try to fill it back in since the damage is only on the bottom, but when Joe tells them that won't fix a 307-pound pumpkin, he gets an even better idea.
307 pounds is my exact weight. This is crazy, but I think I could slide in through the hole in the bottom.
If I could only make one critique about this episode, it would be that line didn't earn a giggity from Quagmire. I mean, come on, it was right there. With their plan set in motion, Peter hides away in the pumpkin until the competition. He doesn't even come out when it's announced that he's the winner of the pumpkin pie eating event.
Sorry, bud, we'll get you pie later.
Enter Patrick McCloskey, aka Glenn Powell, aka Pump King. How many giggities does this episode have? When Joe told us about McCloskey, he clearly left out just how cool this guy was.
Let me get a closer look at your pumpkin. Could barely see it from over there.
So the moment comes for the results of the contest, but before we get to that, let's note that the rumors are true.
It's just pumpkin stuff, Joe.
Oh, good. See, fellas, pumpkin stuff.
Unsurprising at this point in the show, as Bonnie seems to have become a character that offers nothing but hate for her husband, which feels like a waste when you have the voice of Jennifer Tilly to work with. I mean, she's the original Bride of Chucky. Talk about a wasted opportunity. But what is surprising is that Joe wins and finally ends McCloskey's reign.
What are they doing?
All the Pumpkin County winners are entered in the state Halloween contest in Providence.
So his victory is short-lived as he now realizes Peter is on a one-way truck to Providence. Of course, they go and find him, but once again run into McCloskey, who questions how legit Joe's win was.
Last year, your pumpkin was 18 pounds, and this year, it's 307?
Powell doesn't have many scenes in the special, but he holds up well in the ones he does. As pretentious as McCloskey is, it feels like there could be potential to build on this character in the future. Peter lasts most of the day before needing to break out and go to the bathroom, but he's not the only one.
I'm not really sure what to do.
Maybe we just vote on the fattest guy?
This seems mean now.
Sure, Peter, let's call out the fat jokes in your 25th year. Yeah, now is where you draw the line. Joe questions how McCloskey knew he was cheating, but as the former Pump King points out, it's impossible to grow one over 20 pounds. A quick Google search tells me that's not true, but hey, what would I know? I'm a different type of Pump King. Iron, guys, pumping iron. Jeez.
But yours always are.
My fat son sits in mine every year.
And with that, McCloskey leaves the show, hopefully not for the last time.
I gotta put some thought to this, but I think I may be in love with that guy.
We've seen Top Gun Maverick, we're all with you, Joe. To say that this is a bad episode would be unfair. It's fun and it has its moments, but it definitely isn't as strong of a Halloween episode as their past ones have been. But I think that's just natural when a show has had some real high points like Family Guy has. Everything else can sometimes just feel mediocre. But it's by no means bad TV. Glenn Powell delivered in the few scenes he had in the episode and left me wanting more, which to be fair, we probably could have had, as 20 minutes felt too short for a special. As always, Stewie steals every scene he's in, and I think having Joe lead the other plotline was a smart move to mix things up from it always being Peter front and center. You could argue some low points were the overall plot lines not being the most unique storytelling, or that Lois only had a few lines in the entire episode, but I'm sure some of you were actually quite happy about that second part. At the end of the day, it was some holiday fun with the classic Family Guy whimsy, which just leaves me wondering one thing. Is the Christmas holiday special going to be an improvement or a downgrade?